I am fascinated by fear. It completely changed my life once I actually looked at it for what it is and how to use it. So I don't think I don't want to have fear. Fear is a powerful stimulus. It is a response that prepares your body for something.
Welcome back to this week's episode of It Takes Grit. This has been a long time coming, and I am so excited, and what perfect timing, a month before I go to Everest, that I get the pleasure to chat to Dr. Trisha Smith. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited, so excited. If you can see behind me, if you guys are watching on YouTube, you can see that there is an ice bath behind me. I did one of these about a year ago now, when I met Tricia at Lewis House's mastermind. And it was an incredible experience, and I wanted to really just dive super deep into everything that you do, because you add so much value, and you guys are going to absolutely love this episode. So I'm going to hand it over to you. Tell everybody, who are you? What is it that you do? Because there's like so many accolades, and I want you to introduce yourself.
All right. Well, I'm Dr. Trisha Smith. I'm a sports chiropractor by trade. I had a private practice in Los Angeles for 8 years, and then just about 3 years ago, moved back to my hometown of San Diego. LA was pretty much killing me. I'm not the personality to be able to handle all the noise and stress and everything.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, so I had an amazing practice. You know, I was treating celebrities and professional athletes, and then I was finally just like present with myself and was like, oh, okay, this place is just killing me, and I need to get away from it to be healthy. So it was more important to pick up and transition. I didn't know what exactly was going to happen. That's kind of how I've lived my whole life. I've been in many different careers, and each time it was just me being aware of, you know, and being present with myself of where I am and where I want to go next. And so that's kind of what drove me along the route. And then as I was a chiro, I couldn't just look at knees, hips, and shoulders and low backs. Like, I had to know, how do I impact this person's human performance and expand their capacities? So I was always, you know, how did you sleep last night? How's your stress management? I always worked on breathing with patients. And that's kind of what led me into my brand, which is Expand Your Human, which I call it's a lifestyle medicine. So I have 6 primal principles: sleep, breathe, move, play, challenge, and be still. So that's what I've pretty much been working on, just passionately diving in for about 2 decades now on really what makes us human and how do we get back to our primal roots. Those primal roots are what make us healthy in this modern environment, you know, of blocking ourselves from the outdoors, from different temperatures, talking to people in their eyes, you know, not just using our eyes for screens in front of us, being in our bare feet, you know, just very simple, practical things that people can do in their lives to keep them healthy. And along that journey is where I was introduced to Mr. Wim Hof. Since I always talked about breathing stuff, Laird Hamilton was on one of our friends, Lewis House School of Greatness podcast. And he's amazing. If you don't know who he is, big wave surfer. The guy can do just about anything mentally, physically. He has major high capacity. And he was talking about training his breathing with this crazy Iceman. I'm like, man, if Laird's doing this, I gotta find out who this guy is. So I went on the Google the next morning and looked up Wim Hof and jumped into the to the online course. And I loved it because it's human. It's really what people should be doing in their daily lives. It involves breathing exercises, which we all should be having some kind of breath practice. You train your mindset and your commitment, and also cold exposure. So it's just something human that we all should be doing. It's not
and
this.
Probably not doing the connection thing. I feel like we really are disconnected at the and I really I want to touch on this, and that's why I'm so excited to. My brain is like going with a million questions.
I love
And
it.
this is why you guys are going to get so much value from this, because not only are we going to talk about how you can improve your sports performance, the exercise that you're doing, controlling and making sure that you're getting enough sleep. I heard you speaking about sleep at the Lewis Howes Summit of Greatness, but also that connection as well. So yeah, keep going. Sorry, I completely interrupted you.
Yeah,
I'm so
no
excited.
worries, no worries. So Wim, you know, it's nothing, you know, you have to believe in or this woo-woo thing. You know, it's again, it's just human stuff we should be doing. So I jumped in, and I was lucky enough to be one of the first in the first group of U.S. Instructors that were certified, and then I get to speak on his tour, which is a lot of fun, and I teach anatomy and breathing physiology at the academy. So I also help run the Wim Hof Academy, where if you want to become an instructor, you go through this program. So I just dove in, and pretty much things just started rolling.
And now you're a level 3, like the highest one of the Wim Hof method, and like the stuff that you did with us at Lewis Howes' event was just so incredible. I think the first thing that I want to ask you is that let's start off with breathing. I find that a lot of people now are suffering with anxiety, or I mean, even in Newport Beach, you know, the firefighters are getting calls out for people having anxiety and wanting to go into an ambulance to go to the hospital. So, and it's a natural thing, right, to feel like anxious. But how can we control that with breathing? Like, how does your body change? What is the physiological state that happens when you start to feel anxious? Because I think if you can kind of target that, because it's a normal sensory, what can you do to kind of overcome that?
Right. Great question, because that's what I want to do is teach people to be fascinated with this vessel and what it's capable of and how much control we actually have over it. And breathing's the number one thing, easiest thing for your performance. One of the simplest things you can do. It's something, you know, we don't think about because it just happens to us, right? But it's the one of the 3 vital elements that keep us alive.
You gotta keep doing it.
And it's the most important thing, right? You don't think about it until you hold your breath, and you're like, oh,
I need this.
breathing's actually really important. But the major things, you know, it controls our energy. So literally, the way you breathe throughout your day regulates your energy. Breathing up more in your shoulders through an open mouth, very short, shallow breaths, or people you'll find hold their breaths a lot. That's the other pattern we see. That can actually steer you into a little bit more fight or flight, sympathetic. So that's the state. So we have in our autonomic nervous system, which is basically it controls our heart rate, our breathing, our digestion, our pupils. It's an automatic system, and we have 2 divisions. We have our sympathetic, which some people refer to as fight or flight. Don't think of it as necessarily a bad thing. That's an action state. When you're working out, you actually need to be in a sympathetic state, right? And then we also have what's called this parasympathetic or rest and digest state. Think of that as more relaxed recovery. So we need to weave in and out of these, right? And with anxiety, I think a lot of it is, you know, we just have so much stimulus these days with different things, and we spend a lot more time in the sympathetic. It's good for us to get sympathetic and drop back down. So we want those spikes, and then we want to drop back down. That's what an ice bath does.
So you want to have
as
that
well.
initial feeling of anxiety, but it's then recognizing that and then controlling how to get rid of it?
Yes, you can. 2 things there. So one is stress is a primal response for survival, right?
So you can't get rid of feeling anxious at the immediate thing.
Right.
And that's okay. So it's
Yes.
like, first step, you're going to get anxious, no problem.
Right. And maybe trying to bring that threshold down a little bit, right?
Okay.
Like I said, it used to be for survival that we needed that to kick in. Now it's like somebody cuts us off in traffic and, you know, we're all of a sudden anxious, stressed, whatever it may be. So it's good for us to do things that kind of put that in check, like an ice bath is a great sense of a real primal response, like, okay, well, this could kill you if you stayed in too long, but I'm gonna get a good dose of it, and I'm gonna teach myself how to relax in a stressful discomfort place, which is a great way to train for anxiety as well. So one thing would be actually doing things that allow you to train a stress and maybe drop that threshold of when you hit that ceiling to get anxiety, right?
So it's before. It's like you feel like it's kind of creeping up, and like
Yes.
get like stop it before it hits that like critical point where you
Right.
sometimes can lose yourself.
Oh,
Right.
and once you lose yourself, there's few things you could do to get
come
out of
back
it.
for that.
So it's definitely one of the biggest things with it is being more aware of our bodies. Awareness is our greatest superpower, and I think with all the technology and everything that just has us going through life subconsciously, I think we've really lost this sense of being able to feel when we're starting to get anxious, or when we feel good, or when we're truly hungry,
Yeah.
or our gut instinct, which is hugely important. I think getting back to that consciousness and awareness and us being able to feel when we start to get a little bit of anxious, and then we have tools that can help us de-escalate that, which breathing. So I use trust your exhale, and it's pretty much the same breathing that we're going to do in the ice bath. So focusing on the exhale and making it longer than your inhale is going to help steer you into that more parasympathetic rest and digest state. It actually slows your heart rate down. So there's only a few things that we can do that can influence that automatic system. Breathing and vision are two things.
Okay.
And movement. I mean, how much better do you feel if you're starting to get a little anxious and you
Right.
go move?
You just dance around.
Boom.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be an exercise or anything.
Yeah.
Just movement helps. So with the breathing, it's the long, slow breaths out that are going to help you relieve that and drop your heart rate. And it works. It's right there at your fingertips. So you want to use it to know that you can use it as a tool real time. But then remember, you want to train that kind of stuff so then your body can adapt. So then it knows what to do when it gets in that situation.
And that's being aware. And I think sometimes we haven't been told the information to be aware. Like we haven't been told to be aware because we haven't been told, right? It's kind of like that, the chicken and the egg. And I think that I was never told. I mean, I suffered with, anxiety and getting stressed as a teenager, but I was never told like, hey, be aware of this feeling and let's try and like just nip it in the bud before it gets to that point where you've like kind of like lost yourself. So first of all, it's listening to podcasts like this that just wake our minds up to becoming aware. And then on that journey of getting that anxiety, doing the breathing technique.
Yes.
And then after that, what's the kind of next step that you want to do? Then start to move your body.
Moving is good if that helps you. There's only a few things that I know that really work once you get really in it. One is, what you don't want to do is try to use your mind to fight your mind. Like
Yes.
try to tell yourself to calm yourself down.
Yeah, it's like when someone says, just chill out, you're like, ah!
Oh, that is
Yeah, it's the worst.
the worst
Yeah,
thing
relax.
you can do. Yeah.
Oh,
that,
do not ever tell someone to relax. It doesn't help.
No.
Yeah.
No, please don't do that.
Or you look crazy.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So one good thing, if you can get somebody to connect to their breath and just have them do the long breaths out, that's a way you could do it. Or ice packs over the face and the eyes can work. That works
Wow.
probably when somebody is at the most, like maybe panic attack state. And what that does is when you get cold on the face, it can activate what's called the mammalian dive reflex, which lowers your heart rate. So it's all about lowering your heart rate when it's starting to go crazy and get up too high, and it being uncontrolled.
Okay. Why do you think people are suffering so much with anxiety and panic attacks? I mean, has it always been like that, or do you think it's like different now that more people are just suffering with anxiety?
I think, that's always a hard thing. Is it because more people are talking about it, right? Or is it actually happening more? I don't know that answer. But I do think it's a huge impact on, again, we have these primal genes that were not made for this modern environment. And actually all of these comforts, all of this technology doing everything subconsciously for us is not making us healthy at all. It's actually the complete opposite. Our physiology needs ice, it needs hot, it needs fasting. all of these things are good stresses that are, again, teaching our body, okay, what is stress really? And then training yourself how to come down.
Because, yeah, I mean, stress really is, if you're putting your body into an ice bath or you're in like, I mean, that's real stress, right? That's physiological stress.
Right.
But a lot of this stress right now is just mind. And
Right.
it's because we're in our heads rather than in our hearts, I feel like, a lot of time.
Huge.
So let's talk about the ice bath. I've done this once before. I think we got in a couple of times. I think the girls were actually stronger than the men, weren't they? They were like, we're going to get in a couple of times here. So what's the benefits of it? Like, it's not just a craze. It's not just this fad thing. It really is something that can make a difference in your life. And how regularly do you have to do it? If someone's brand new and they've like never done an ice bath before, like, what's your beginner steps to having an ice bath and the results that you can get?
Right. So benefits, one we've talked about a lot was just the nervous system. So training that you actually get a nice shot of adrenaline when you get in there, which is good. Like people pay to jump out of airplanes to get adrenaline. Adrenaline is a healthy thing. So you get some adrenaline. And then once you actually learn how to do the shift, sometimes I call it the shit shift, from, oh shit, I want to get out of here, to, all right, this isn't so bad.
Yeah.
So you want the adrenaline, get the nervous system up, speed your heart rate up, and then be able to use the breathing to bring yourself back down. The other thing is we're working what's called our thermoregulatory system, which is a system in our body that adapts us to cold and hot. And we want to keep that system healthy. Again, it's not healthy to maintain room temperature your whole life. You want to keep that system healthy. Use it.
And is that just to wake up your body and your insides? Like, why is it not healthy to stay at one temperature?
Because this system, the thermoregulatory system, involves our brain, involves our heart, involves our skin.
Right.
It involves all of these things, our blood vessels, and in order to keep anything healthy in our body, what do we have to do? Use it.
Use it.
So we want to use this primal system.
Aha. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I think a lot of people will be like, well, why do I need to jump in an ice bath? Like, why do I need to go somewhere really hot? And it's for health.
Exactly.
It's to wake up those senses that you probably on a normal day are not doing.
Right. And with that, what happens when you so us sitting out here right now on this beautiful sunny day, right? All of our blood vessels, by the way, we have about 80,000 miles of blood vessels.
Shit, that's a lot. It's a lot of blood vessels.
It's a lot.
80,000 miles.
80,000 miles. So if you take them out of your body and you string them end to end to end, so you can wrap them around the earth about 2.5 times.
Wow.
That's insane, but it's something we never think about, right? We think about muscles and bones and joints and, oh, let's keep those healthy. But we have all of these blood vessels. So when we're in this nice, warm environment, our blood vessels are what are called dilated. So they're all open. We're getting nice blood flow everywhere. Then we go, boop, get in the ice, and our body does what's called a blood flow shunt. So we're going to get vasoconstriction, or a little bit of closing down on our blood vessels in all of our limbs, our arms and legs. And then we're going to get vasodilation, opening up of the blood vessels around our organs in our brain. 1, to conserve heat, and 2, to keep the most important parts, getting some nice warm blood flow. So we have that major shift that happens. And then when we get out, our blood vessels, these guys are going to open back up. So we're going to get a nice blood vessel workout.
Wow, which you would never be able to get.
Right. If you stay at room temperature the whole time, your blood vessels are just staying like this. So you want blood vessels to be what's called compliant, or I talk about like mobility is like the, cool fitness term. So the blood vessel mobility. So you're getting a nice interval workout, so you're getting them to open and close. So you've got nervous system, you're working your thermoregulatory system, you're working out your blood vessels. So physiologically, there's so many benefits. But then also mentally, right? It is a great mirror for your life. How are you showing up in fearful situations, in stressful situations? Do you take it head on? Do you have narratives going on in your mind like you can't do this? It's a great place to train fear. I am fascinated by fear. It completely changed my life once I actually looked at it for what it is and how to use it. So I don't want to have fear. Fear is a powerful stimulus. It is a response that prepares your body for something.
Right,
starts
okay.
beating your heart a little bit faster, right? Getting the blood flow to your muscles. You become a little bit sharper. And
You're a bit more focused, aren't you? Just
yes,
like a bit more aware. But then most people back out
yes,
because it gets too much.
it gets too much, or they haven't actually felt it and been able to steer it. So what you do is you actually allow yourself to feel it, which is again awareness, which a lot of people don't do. Is just like, okay, how does fear come up in my body? How does it show up? Let's just feel it.
Yeah.
Be fascinated by it. And then be able to shift it. Okay, where do I want my heartbeat to go? Where do I want all this energy to go? And then you can steer it. And that's what I use to, steer me up on stage, essentially.
Yeah. So you're using your mind, or you using like your body? Like when the fear things come in, do you get into your head, or you don't want to get in your head, do you?
Nope.
As soon as you're in your head, you're dead. Right?
Can't fight your mind with your mind.
Exactly. So so what are you doing to? Because we feel that fear. Because a lot of people go, okay, I really want to do this thing. It could be starting the business. It could be walking to a new workout class that you've not walked in before, and then you get that fear, and then there's that point where you either do it or you talk yourself out of it. How can you make sure that you do it every time?
I drop into my body and I feel my heartbeat. That's the biggest thing. It's called internal focus, which we'll use once we get out of, you'll use it in there, and then you also use it once you get out to create heat. But you want to go inside and actually feel the energy, feel your heartbeat, use the breathing to long breaths out, and just know that you are in control of your body. There is way more that we can do we're not just at the mercy of whatever this thing is doing. We're really not. Our behavior determines how our body responds.
Isn't it crazy that your emotional feelings feel more sometimes than like when you hurt yourself, like physically? Like how does that work? Why does that happen? Like, why do you feel like, like heartbreak, or like you're falling out with a friend and you're just like, you've got that feeling, or that sad feeling? It's like, you feel that so more than if someone was just like punch you in the arm. And like, is that you just want to feel the feels? And then like, especially with like heartbreak. Heartbreak is it hurts.
Yeah.
And so how do you kind of navigate those feelings?
You want to feel them.
Okay.
Right? There's no way out but through.
Yeah.
You just went to Tony Robbins, it's probably the same thing. It's like you have to feel them, you have to go through whatever you're going through. Again, on the awareness part, just being aware of it, because there's no way around. Otherwise, you're just going to drag it with you.
So when they say time is the greatest healer, it kind of is.
It kind of is,
Yeah.
as long as you're going through it.
Yeah.
Again,
because you don't want to back out of it. You want to feel the feels and allow your mind and your body to kind of go through that process.
Yes. And more these days, that's what we're finding in research. That's what they're finding in psychology, addiction, that we have all the stuff we need inside of us. We're so used to looking outside of us for something, and it has to be, this complicated diagnosis, and you have to, get this pill or do this expensive thing. And all the research I've done in all different fields, it always come back to the very simple things that keep us healthy, and that we have most of the stuff inside of us.
Well, it's interesting you talk about that, but it's also like we want validation from other people. So it's like having that internal, we do have, because when you said all we need is within us right now. And it's true, whether it's talking about, the health parts of it, and also just how we feel that security within ourselves. So
Huge.
If someone wants to do an ice bath and they're brand new, or they don't have an ice bath at home, like what are some baby steps? Give me some baby steps for a brand new person.
Baby steps. Perfect thing to do is take your regular warm shower, shampoo up, do whatever you do. At the end, turn it a little bit colder. Like, you don't have to start out going all cold and, going crazy in there, especially if you've been at room temperature your whole life. Allow yourself to get a little bit of stress, but also adapt. I always say, don't just suffer, adapt.
Okay.
So take your regular warm shower, turn it cool at the end, then each day, get a little bit colder.
And how long are we doing
colder.
this for?
I would start out like 10 seconds. Or do this. This is even better. Start out with 5 breaths. So slow, long breaths out, focusing on the exhale. Just count your breaths. That will really get you to focus on the breathing, because the breathing is, if you really want to know the ninja skill of an ice bath, that's it. right?
It's the breath. It's the breath. Yeah, and it's the quicker that you can just start breathing, and then you're looking at Trisha and you're like, oh, I just need to breathe. Because if I start going, because I could see when other people were doing the ice bath, they were like, and I was like, as soon as you like let your breath go, she's gonna let you get out. So like, come on, like,
Yes,
that's what it was. The whole point was just to like surrender to it. So first steps of someone when you're in normal shower for 5 breaths and just doing it a little bit colder than you were before. How are you gonna feel after you've done that? Like, what's the change? What's the point of doing that?
do it first thing in the morning.
Yep.
You'll definitely wake yourself up, which feels good. Also, when you do a cold shower in the morning, your body temperature actually heats up, especially in the next few hours. Like when I first started doing them, I would be sweating like about 2 hours later once I got in the clinic, because your body, when it's in the cold, it's trying to produce heat. Then at night, you want to take a warm shower.
Okay, so
because,
no cold showers at night.
Right. At night, warm shower, and your body's trying to give off the heat and cool itself down, which you want your body temperature to decrease at night. So in the morning, cold shower, you feel more awake, you feel alive, especially when it's one morning you don't want to do it, right? If you do hard things, Jim Quick says this a lot, if you do hard things, life becomes easier. And you'll be like, oh man, I could take on this today. Like I did a cold shower this morning. So those are usually the changes that I'll see.
And then, so you're then starting to do a couple more seconds like every day. Now, what's the max you want to do in the cold water on, the coldest that your temperature has? How many minutes are we talking?
That's tough because it's the water's so different temperatures. I mean, we're lucky enough in San Diego to get it cold enough in the winter. But I mean, 2 minutes is what we want to do maximum in a full ice bath. There's a great shower challenge on the WimHofMethod.com that people can follow and have a little accountability, and you move up the times every week.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that would be a good,
Yes,
I would use that as a guide.
Yeah, we'll definitely put the link in that below. And now, there were some other breathing techniques that you shared with us when we did the ice bath. Now, we've talked about, if you're having like the stressor is to take that breath in and then the long breath out. What other kind of breathing techniques do you use that help you through different things, or maybe in the ice bath?
Sure. The first one is just breath check-ins. Like throughout your day, just check in with your breath. So if I just
do you have an alarm on your phone for this? Or do you just know?
I used to, yep.
You trained yourself,
exactly.
Right?
That's what you got to do. You front load and then boom, it just happens throughout your day. But really just become aware of it. A lot of times what you'll see is a pattern of, very short, shallow breaths, which are going to use up a lot of energy. They're going to increase your heart rate. Not what you want to do. Nope. You can literally conserve energy throughout your day by the way you breathe. So breathing in through your nose is number one. That helps you drop the heart rate a little bit, and also again kind of focusing on the exhale. And when people say a deep breath, most people think it's like big, like I gotta take a big breath. It's deep. It means it starts really low. That's the key, is not up here, but breathing starting in the belly. It could come up in the chest, but the shoulders shouldn't be coming up.
Right.
So checking in and just saying, okay, am I breathing in through my nose or my mouth? How long are my inhales and exhales? Is the breath starting down in my belly? And then pattern a few of those breaths. There's a good tool to help is do 6 breaths per minute. So if you do 5 seconds inhale, 5 seconds exhale, that'll give you 6 breaths per minute, which is very low compared to a lot of people average about 10 to 12 breaths per minute.
Right, okay. So you're just like, and how often are you checking in during the day? Like how many check-ins?
I do it probably maybe 3 times.
Okay, like morning, middle, and then...
Exactly.
And now do you remember like the times that you're doing it? Is it like so automatic that you're like, oh, like it's 10 past 2, this is the time that I normally do it?
Yes.
Okay, wow, that's amazing. Okay, so first of all, set your alarm to check in with your breath. Just maybe try once a day.
Yeah, once a day.
And then as you can add in, and then just it makes it kind of like actually brings you back to what you're doing right now. Because sometimes we get so busy about everything, even just checking in. It's not just maybe checking with your breath, it's just checking in with yourself.
Exactly. Creating space. That's what we need more in today's world. We want to fill the space of our days, of our conversations. People get get uncomfortable with quiet, or even now, people can't even stop at a stop sign without picking up their phones.
I know.
It's crazy.
It's
like
obsessive.
we have to create space. When we create space, one, we know where we are, so we know where we want to go, and two, you can steer your response. So it's huge.
Okay, so let's talk about sleep. I was lucky enough to hear, I was like fascinated. I was like writing all these notes down when we were at the Lewis House Summit of Greatness. I don't feel like we get enough sleep nowadays, and also good sleep. What are some of your tips? I know you have a strategy for making sure that you're getting the best sleep, because it's really going to help you with the next day.
Oh, huge. I mean, sleep is a keystone habit. If you don't get sleep, what happens the next day?
Yeah.
I mean, everything goes out the window.
Yeah.
Your movement, your eating, your concentration, everything's gone.
You're not a very nice human being.
No, exactly. And your mood is not very good. So sleep, and the sleep, I don't want to say it's necessarily a hot topic. It's just now researchers have actually figured out how to study it. For a long time, we just didn't even know how to study it to know what's happening overnight. We knew we sleep for a purpose. We're not just sleeping because that's the only, time left in our day. It should actually be the start of our day. And from what we know now, adults need about 7 to 9 hours. And what happens while we're sleeping, we're consolidating memories. We're literally taking short-term memories and moving them into long-term storage. We're resetting our hormones, our metabolism. We're getting this, what's called, it's like a power wash of our brain. Literally, your brain cells are shrinking down, and then they're getting this rush of fluid through our brains that are cleaning out all of this stuff.
So you just blowing my mind. This is crazy. I just love this shit. So you think about the day starts when you sleep. Do you think of it like that? So
Yep, I now do.
Okay, so how do you change that mindset? Like, what are you thinking? I'm going to bed now because I need to get this sleep so that I can do the rest of my day.
Yes, or I think about journaling will help, like in the morning, like to really, again, be aware of, okay, how do I feel now that I didn't get that sleep? Or how do I feel when I do get that much sleep? And then also knowing the benefits, like some of those things I said that happen overnight. Like now I go to sleep and I'm like, man, I get a power wash of my brain. So maybe that could stave off, Alzheimer's, or, they're finding links to that. I'm being able to consolidate memories. That's actually where they're finding out we learn better. Like instead of pulling all-nighters, it's actually better for you to sleep, and we get that consolidated in our brain. So I think about, sometimes I'll use that as my anchor. Like, okay, I want to go to sleep because I want to get a power wash. And I think about what's happening to my body if I'm not. Again, there's a purpose why we're sleeping. So that's how I shifted in my mind. And the easiest things for anybody is to just start out on a regular schedule. I know everyone hates this because it's usually a schedule during the week, and then the weekends are like 2 hours, 3 hours difference, right?
And that can make quite a difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah, I remember you saying this. You're like, even just at the weekend, you change it by a couple of hours, it can set you off. And it takes how many days to get back into the right rhythm?
It depends how many hours that you shifted. So jet lag, it's the same thing. How horrible do you feel when you fly from Newport Beach to New York?
Yep.
Right? It's like,
yeah, you're off.
You're totally off. Think about it. People are doing that every single weekend.
Wow.
It's actually called social jet lag. There's a research term for it.
Wow. Okay. So you want to get yourself into a schedule.
A schedule. Same time you go to bed, same time you get up, between 7 and 9 hours. If you do stay awake a little bit later, you want to wake up at the same time. So that way you go to bed at your normal hour rather than shifting that later.
Right. So if you're like, hey, I've just got a little bit behind, don't be like, well, I'm just going to make sure that I still get my 8-9 hours. It's like, no, you've got to get up at the same time that you have been getting up.
Yes, because it's actually better to stay with the sync and the regularity than...
Is there a perfect time to go to bed and wake up in the morning?
The research is still kind of figuring that out as far as what's happening. So in the first half of our sleep we're getting what's called deep sleep, and it's non-REM, non-rapid eye movement, which is when we're not dreaming. But that's like the super restorative sleep where we're recalibrating our cardiovascular system and our hormones and all that stuff. And then the second half is more of our REM sleep, more of our dream sleep, where we have amazing things happening as well. And so they're trying to look at if you shift that earlier or later, that actually may be impacted by the light-dark cycle, which is what we should naturally be synced up to. So if I shift that, and some people are, want to stay up late. So they're trying to figure out now, if we shift that whole thing and say go to bed at midnight and wake up at 7, maybe they're missing a block of that deep sleep. So right now they're trying to figure out if that does have an impact. But it's really interesting of what's happening at what times.
Yeah. So what time do you go to bed and wake up?
I usually get up between right around 6:15. 6:30 is pretty much when I'll get up. Getting up without an alarm is the best, because then your body has actually gotten enough sleep. No.
What time do you go to bed?
10, usually by 10.
By 10. So you were all like wound down, hitting the pillow by 10.
Yes. And I've gotten to the point where, if you keep it really regular, your brain is very connected, and it's called association patterns. So it has association with things. Like your bed should only be used to sleep. So that way it's only associated, like when you go down there, lay your head down, boom, you should be able to fall asleep within like 10 minutes.
This is a random question, but is it better to have a house with an upstairs and a downstairs for sleep? Because a lot of houses in America are like one level, and I don't like that, because I like to know that my bedroom is upstairs, away from it.
Right.
I just wonder if there's any scientific things about that.
That's a good
question.
question.
Do you have a one-level house or two?
One.
Okay.
That is a good question, though, because most Europe and all is
England,
all
yeah,
2-3 stories.
Your bedrooms are not to do with like.
Yes.
Maybe that's some research we could do together.
Yes.
Find out what type of houses are best for sleep.
For sure.
2 levels. So what's the best things to do to kind of unwind? Because I feel like, I'm guilty of it. Like, I'm on my phone just before I go to bed, but how do you stop that? Like, how do I stop myself, like, checking my TikTok or my Instagram, or like unwinding? Because I feel like we lose some connection when that happens.
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is to not get on your phone. It's to have some other routine that you're doing so you don't think about it. Same thing with a morning routine, or what I call my wake-up routines. People say, oh, don't touch your phone for the first hour, and then you're just using up willpower. We know we only have so much willpower.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because I have to look at my phone first thing, check that there's anything urgent, and then if there isn't, then I can have my nice morning routine and enjoy my breakfast.
Yes, and that's actually good too, especially if it can calm you down.
Right, okay.
So because there's 2 pieces. There's one if it sends you into a downward spiral, right, and you kind of get on the defense, right?
Because there's something urgent that's happened, the app developers have done something, the app's not working, whatever. So I'm just like, I go into fix mode, but it's a time-sensitive thing. So am I best to not look at my phone?
Then you're probably best to not look at your phone.
Okay.
And again, so developing habits. So at night, getting your environment ready for the morning, whatever that may be. Warm shower or bath. Reading a book is one of the most relaxing things, according to research, the most relaxing things we can do, even besides meditation or a walk. And reading a physical book.
Yeah, not on a Kindle, not on a screen.
Correct.
It needs to be like the book. So
Yes.
how many hours before getting ready for bed are we kind of having our nighttime routine? Like, how long do you need to? Because there's so much stuff going through the day. I feel like if I lie down half an hour afterwards, like I'm like, my head is just going a million miles a minute.
So gradual. I would start maybe about 2 hours, like dimming lights. So instead of having all your lights on, maybe dim like half of them. I mean, it's a huge change, just dimming lights in your house. Or if you have a ton of candles, just start creating the environment. Watching the sunset is also hugely important.
Really?
That will help you kind of reset your body to relaxing itself and coming down. Okay. Just like if you can watch the sun rise, then your body's like, okay, getting ready for the day. So watching both of those will help.
Yeah, oh, that's one of my favorite things. You feel great.
You feel amazing.
Feel great. Now I know why.
Yes.
It's like scientifically proven that you feel great when you watch the sunrise.
Totally.
And everyone feels happy when they're watching sunset, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So, okay, so a couple of hours like before, you're having a warm shower. Are you drinking any Any drinks or herbal teas or anything, or do you have anything like to eat before you go to bed?
I have totally switched my eating patterns. I used to do more of a intermittent fast where I wouldn't eat, till like maybe 1, 2 o'clock. And then I would have dinner like 7, 8, sometimes 9. And now I've switched. There's a new thing called your feeding window. So instead of thinking about the time that you're fasting, which I actually like this way of thinking about, is like, what is my window I can eat?
Yes.
Right? I don't like.
More exciting.
Yes, even with all the health stuff or habits, I hate teaching like a fear-based teaching, like, oh, well, if you don't do this, this happens. No, I like, what are the benefits? So I look at it. So we have this feeding window, and what they found is like between 8 to 10 hours is kind of a good sweet spot of where you want to eat like your first calorie to your last calorie. And then what they found, what they're trying to do is see what part of the day is better, right? So shifting that earlier, they're finding is better. And if you think about it, more food, light, and body temperature are the 3 things that tell our bodies to wake up. It kind of starts our circadian clocks.
You need the fuel from food.
Right.
Right, to help you move?
Yes. And it's a signal to like, okay, let's get the day going. We have think of your body as just all clocks. Like really it is. I mean, we have clocks on our jeans that tell when jeans to turn on and off, what time of day it is. It's like, I mean, we are like, we are little clocks walking around. So
love that analogy.
Yeah. So food is one of them. So shifting this feeding window a little bit earlier, I'll get done now with dinner by 4 or 5 o'clock. Okay. Sounds early. And at first I was a little hungry in the evening, but once you switch that and keep on a regular pattern, I've never slept better. You don't tend to overeat. Most people eat and then they lay down right afterwards. And
you're not going to bed
huge
on a full
game changer
too. Right, yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
And really we should, after sunset, we shouldn't be eating too much longer after that goes down.
Right.
So
are you drinking water?
I'll drink water, and I'll have some herbal tea. I don't like drinking it too close to bedtime because of course then you don't want to have to wake up and go pee. But so I tend to load my hydration more earlier throughout the day, and then I'll taper off, towards the evening.
That's fascinating. I absolutely love everything to do with sleep. I had a crazy dream last night. I was in an airplane and I was in a China Airlines, and it was like going round in circles and like it was crashing, but it wasn't like really crashing, and I was still alive. So I dream every night. Do you dream?
Yeah.
Yeah. I dream all. I don't know if that was considered a dream or a nightmare.
Yeah, it might be a nightmare.
Yeah. So what's happened? I want to just talk about like you, because you've given us so much value. But what is it that you've got planned for the rest of 2020? Like, where can people find you? Like, and just dive more into what you've got going on.
Yeah, so I'm working on my online, I don't want to call it a course, it's more of an online experience of Expand Your Human and really dialing in your lifestyle medicine. So we're working on that so I get to speak a lot, besides WIM's tour, I get to speak on my Expand Your Human stuff, as you've heard, at Summit of Greatness and different places. And I get off stage and they're like, okay, well, what else?
Yeah, where
can we find you? So I'm like, oh, I better get this.
This thing that everyone's talking about.
Yeah, this online stuff that everyone's talking about. No,
it's
not yet. I'm working on it.
Okay.
Working on that. I also speak at the Jesse Itzler's 29-029 events, which are these mountain climb events. So I teach people about breathing.
Amazing. He was just a speaker at Tony Robbins.
Oh, he was. Yes, he was there.
Sarah Blakely, yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
He's great. You know what? I actually messaged him and I said, hey, dude, why is 9 the thing not in your Instagram bio? He goes, oh, that's actually a really good point. And then he added it in.
Oh, nice.
I was like, I added value to Jesse.
Yes.
Extra. That's amazing. Yes. That's great that you're speaking there. When are you doing that?
So I've done it the last 2 years, and I teach people how to breathe better, because what it is you climb a mountain for 36 straight hours overnight.
Yes. Yeah.
So being able to breathe correctly and also use it to bring you to your present moment is huge. So I'm going to there's 3 this year. I'm going to maybe Utah, which is in August, and then Vermont. I think they're all sold out this year, so look for it next year.
Yeah, they're selling out fast.
They're amazing. I mean, it's just such a great experience, great community. And then I'm also speaking, he does a Build Your Life resume, which is kind of his mastermind and group community. And he does a camp outside of Atlanta, like an adult camp, and it's so much fun. It's a blast. So
When is his one this year?
I think it's gonna be November, end of November. So they haven't come out with the dates yet, but look for that because it's a lot of fun. So I'll be doing that and working with more mastermind groups and corporate training and trying to give another aspect of these to where you're not just sitting around and listening to speakers, but you're actually doing things and experiences and learning breathing so you can get more out of those weekends and maybe drum up some more creativity, flow states, and be able to integrate that stuff more in your daily life when you leave there, rather than just, listening to a bunch of people. Like, how do you...
Yeah, it's waking up and having that experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like at Mastermind, for you guys.
Yeah, that was different. That was actually something that we could take away and be like, I felt differently rather than just like listening to someone. I'm gonna be selfish and ask a question for me. What is your best tips for Everest for me? Like, is it, give me something. Give me something that's gonna get me to the top.
Get you to the top. Cold training. I think cold training is gonna be hugely helpful just because your body will know what to do. It's been there. It's not, you're gonna spend less energy because it takes a lot of energy to keep yourself warm, as you saw.
Yep.
And the breathing. The breathing, especially in the Wim Hof method specifically, I sent you the link, but it wasn't necessarily a research. There is some research going on currently, but it was what they call letter to the editor. So it was almost like a case study. But what they did was they looked, when Wim goes and climbs Kilimanjaro, he can do it. He did it in this last group with 36 hours. It normally takes 4 to 7 days because you have to acclimate. He uses the breathing. So basically his daily protocol, he'll use, when he first gets there, they'll do it in the morning, they'll do it at night, whenever they're taking breaks. They'll use the whole program, like 3 or 4 rounds, which you can find on the platform, he has a Wim Hof Method app as well. So I would start training the breathing now. So using the Wim Hof Method during the stops, but then also what they found was one of the keys was they would essentially almost breathe more than they needed to as they were going up. And that way they could keep their oxygen levels very high in their blood. So when you're going up in elevation, it's not that there's less oxygen, it has to do with the pressure and getting less oxygen into your tissues. So if you train your body to deal with less oxygen, which breath holding will do that, so the Wim Hof method, but then also while you're climbing, you're really using your breath as you're going. And the key was they were able to keep their oxygen saturation, like, when you use the meter, they were able to keep it above 90%.
Wow.
Even at an elevation. And that was the key that staved off the mountain sickness. So all of them still got like a little bit of mild version, but they were able to keep it away. And then when they went and did the breathing, it took it all away.
And 36 hours, that's such a quick time.
Yeah. And in this study, particularly because it was done, I think like maybe 4 years ago, they did this one in 48 hours. But they're really looking at how the breathing can make a huge difference.
Okay, I'm gonna get the Wim Hof app, and I'm gonna be doing my ice showers in the morning. I'm like, hey, just leave this here. I was gonna do this every morning. Okay, amazing. And where can everybody find you on social media?
I'm on Instagram mostly. I'm not very good at Facebook. I have to keep focused on one thing.
Okay.
So Instagram, Dr. Trisha Smith. My website's Dr. Trisha Smith. Very easy to find. And
love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to put all of your details below. Go and give Tricia a follow. You're going to absolutely love everything that she has going on. I'm so grateful and honored that you came in today. Like, I could sit here all day. Even before we started filming, there was an hour of me just asking questions and us talking. So thank you so much for joining me. Guys, make sure you go give her a follow, leave us a review on It Takes Grit, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
If you eat bad food, nothing is going to transform. Your mind certainly isn't going to transform, let alone your results. Because when you're feeding your body crappy, shitty food, what is happening is you're going to feel crappy and shitty. And if you're feeling crappy and